AMD stock is launching satellites up into space with SpaceX, or launching their semiconductors up into space with SpaceX. One of the things that we've seen with the company is that they're focusing more on data centers this year. How much of an importance it becomes that you're investing in the infrastructure of what could be this AI boom in 2025? It's everything for these tech companies. So let's take a look at AMD. It's been exciting to watch the stock. Today we're up a little bit over 4.5% on the portfolio. Despite having not the best trade early, we actually were able to capitalize on some of the movements related to cooler stock. And I think that if we just focused on more of these tech companies that are in good markets, that makes all the difference. So we focus on three things when analyzing a stock. The first thing is the market that we're in. AMD stock is in gaming. They're in semiconductor and data centers. They work in GPUs. One of the biggest things they recently did that I admire is they launched their satellite, or they launched with SpaceX, their semiconductor, their versatile chips are powering the Starlink satellites. So that's a big deal. On top of that, their CEO was CEO of the year, according to Time Magazine, in 2024. So there's a lot going on for the company. In fact, they beat their earnings back here in was after right here. It was November. They beat their earnings, but they've continued to sell off. And now we see them holding below the 200-day moving average. We see them getting rejected by this EMA. A couple things happening with AMD stock on the near term. When we look at the analysis, there's three things we look at: the technicals, the financials, and the news. One thing with the financials, we just released this over in Stockmate, earnings to watch for this week. We got Palantir among others, and I have all my price targets there. And in this outlook, you got Tuesday, AMD stock reporting earnings, as well as Google. You got Snapchat as well as Chipotle. There's some big companies that are going to be reporting. I'm looking forward to these AMD earnings because we saw that they were getting more investments from big tech related to data centers. And when we take a look even deeper into their financials, we could also see that quarter over quarter, it's going to pull up. There we go. Revenue is really growing. You can see they're beating their revenue by 1 to 2%. They are beating their earnings per share. You can see year over year, we're all in the green, over $6.8 billion in revenue. Net income almost at $1 billion there. Diluted EPS. The one thing to consider is they're trading pretty high. They were up to $225 a share. Was that right? $227 a share here back in March of 2024. They've sold off significantly. They're down here now. This is a $113 price point from that 227. So what we'd expect, I've had targets of around $160 for AMD. I could see it pushing up to that price point. We're going to see how things react tomorrow with these earnings. A lot of the time too, we have a price in. We might see AMD shoot up tomorrow in anticipation of the earnings and possibly pricing in what could be a spike. The reason why, they've been very consistent. They mentioned that they're expanding into data centers and AI. And if you search AMD, you actually go into their company's setup on their website, you could see they got GPUs to power DeepSeek V3. This is very important to note, is they are on the edge of a lot of technical innovation. Maybe some people haven't heard of DeepSeek. Well, it's disrupting most of AI over the past 2 weeks, and Nvidia has dropped like 20 to 30% as a result. You can also see they have their versatile chips that are going up in the Starlink satellites, which we have some really cool photos of on my phone here. I'm looking outside. There's a bunch of mountains and trees around me. I'm in between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe, and I can usually see all the stars at night, except for the past few days it's been raining like crazy. But the other night we were looking up and we saw the Starlink satellites launching over, powered with those new AMD chips. That was really awesome, inspiring. You can see they're impacting every single industry. They got database, data centers, supercomputing. It's gaming for sure, but they have said they're focusing more on data centers and GPUs to power the AI revolution. So that'll be a big deal in the future here. So outside of their news and seeing them develop for some of the most innovative companies, you can see some of their partnerships as well. It's going to be quite interesting as they're in this deep seek conversation here, because that's a company that is getting a lot of attention. Most likely, a lot of people are going to be competing with DeepSeek. And now DeepSeek saying, "Hey, we have this model that we basically were able to take everything that's good about ChatGPT, create a better model, and now it's in the hands of these other AI companies to say, hey, how can we come up with our better software, with our better prompt engineering, or our better writing and efficiency to be able to compete?" And now you're going to see more open competition as China comes into the conversation. And then on top of that, you have OpenAI, like even with Sam Altman recently saying that I don't know if they have it in the news here, but just a few hours ago, they said they're not suing DeepSeek. And then he also said OpenAI has been on the wrong side of history, citing that they shouldn't have closed OpenAI from being open source. And so when you have those types of conversations happening, and then another $400 billion coming in to AI infrastructure of, and this is kind of more general market, but that Stargate project is $500 billion over the next 4 years towards AI infrastructure. It's going to be open AI, but it's also going to be impacting other companies. Like earlier today, we were covering Cooler technology here, and Cooler technology is starting to work with other AI infrastructure companies, and they were saying how this Stargate thing is going to impact their company. They're launching batteries up into space for SpaceX's rideshare mission 2026. That should be interesting to see how they innovate. But when we look at this this downtrend, the technicals are just pointing to like, don't catch the falling knife. Everybody's like, hey, AMD is going to go up. I've had a price target of 160. We even ran a sale for Stockmate where we go live every single day at market open, and I share with you guys these targets like I just showed you. You could surround yourself with other traders and investors, and it's that second link down below. We have a sale that's like $160 by March 20th. If AMD hits it, then that's going to you get Stockmate for free, because I have big calls on AMD. I'm thinking AMD has been sinking and sinking, but I see it as a company that they're beating revenue, they're beating earnings, and we're going to see them recover. One thing to note is while it's consistently fallen here, you could start to see a little bit of momentum. You see how this MACD and the RSI, while they've dropped significantly proportionally over here on these indicators, they're starting to actually flatten out or gain momentum despite the sell-off on the chart. That's divergence. Classic divergence is when one indicator shows one thing while the rest of the indicators show something else. Right now, the chart is showing this downtrend while we're seeing the MACD and RSI seeing a little bit of built momentum, build up into momentum. The financials were looking good, and a lot of the news around AMD stock looks good as well. I mean, you could look at a company like T-Mobile. When T-Mobile partnered with Starlink to offer the Starlink to their customers, so now you have satellite with T-Mobile, one of the things that happened to their stock just months after it was that their stock absolutely soared over the course of about a 2-year period. And so let's see, it's TMUS. There it is. It is on our list. And we could look at their stock has absolutely soared. They partnered back in 2022 in just before September. So if we go 2022 was right here just before September, and they were dropping a lot back here. They were dropping, and then September they had dropped, and this is where they partnered with Starlink. Since then, the surgence has been tremendous from that September right there to this high has been a 75% increase over a 2-year period of time. So I think the long-term output with some of the partnerships that you see with AMD are going to be favorable. But again, we're looking at, if you look at the chart, you look at some of their valuations, they're a little high. The chart's going low, and you don't want to catch a falling knife. But at the same time, you still see this trend start to develop. So that's what we're going to see what happens here with AMD. The thing that we're going to notice here is on Tuesday, tomorrow, when they report earnings, what type of reaction the market's going to have. Because the market was down today about 1.5% before recovering to 0.5% now. But if the market continues to drop a little bit, it's interesting because when the market was shooting up like crazy, AMD was selling off. When Tesla and all Nvidia was shooting up around these elections times, look at the election, there was no spike. They reported earnings right here around the elections. They've sold off ever since. Now they're coming up with their new earnings here kind of on the closer time horizon of tomorrow. To see them have a positive earnings and then continue with their developments in data centers and AI, I think we got a lot of a bullish sentiment to be looking forward to with AMD. So I'm very optimistic about the future. And I think that we're at a critical level that if it continues, it's really going to keep this overall trend that it's had for the last few years, with the exception of that drop back there. Right here, you can see though, overall, I mean, pretty consistent uptrend, and we'll see if it kind of holds these levels. I think it's a good one to look at. So market looks good. The plan is we're going to look at potentially getting in the coming weeks. We're already in our long position, but trading around earnings time could be interesting. Some of these moves, it doesn't take long for them to happen. We've seen them get up to that price point pretty quickly. And again, would love to have you in StockMate. If you'd like to watch us trade live at market open, there's some details on the AMD sale there as well. What we just currently would like to open up around this earnings season. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Would love to have you there live tomorrow at market open. And if I earned your thumbs up, hit that like button. If you'd like more information on AMD, be more than happy to cover it. If you like this, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.